everybody, it's me, ProMature17, and today we're going to be looking at Lego EV3. So before we get started with all the fun stuff like making the robot and programming it, we have to know something that's very important right now. There are two editions of EV3. The first edition is the Home Edition, which I'm going to be using, and the second edition is the Education Edition. There are only minor differences with these. There's a little bit more pieces in the Education Edition, and there's more apps and stuff that you can use to learn with the Education Edition. So one more thing before we get started. That is the link to the websites to get all the programming downloads and all the step-by-step tutorials on how to make robots and stuff for these Lego EV3. And in that same link there, you can do Education Edition on this too. So I'll be putting that link in the description also. And there are 3 different types of downloads you can get for the Home Edition, which is there's app for mobile to control the robot which you have, and there's a download for Mac OS 10.114 or newer in Windows 10, iOS, and Android tablets. And then there's one more for downloads for Mac OS 10.13 or older, and for any Windows computer. I'm going to be using the last type of download, which is for any Windows computer.
Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the main part of this EV3 kit, which is this EV3 brick. So this is what controls all the motors and all the sensors of this EV3 kit. So now let's look how to use this. So before we need to set this thing up, we need 6 AA batteries to make this thing work. And the way we make this start is pretty simple. There's this one gray button in the middle, a darker gray button, and you just hold down on it. And it'll turn red, and it'll say starting, and it'll make a sound when it goes in. It'll take a few seconds, and it will get started. So it should be starting up any second. And this will turn green also. And it's just like arrow keys. It's up, down, left, right, and then this is back. So, okay, there we go. It's starting up. And as you see, it's green. And there are 4 sections. And if you want to move around, it's these 2, left and right. It's just like normal. Then up and down is like, if you want to go down to IR control, you just use the down. And if you want to go back up to motor control, press up. It's that simple. And if you want to turn off this brick, which is really important, you press this button up here. And it'll take you back to the first screen. Press it again. It'll ask you if you want to shut it off. X means no. Check mark means yes. So just move over to the check mark. Press that. And that's how you use this brick. Okay, so now we're looking at motors. So first, you get 3 motors and you get 2 different types of motors. So now we're going to be looking at those. First, we're going to look at this motor. You get one of these motors, and these are medium motors. And these aren't so strong, but these are still pretty strong. And this red part is where it spins. And you can use these 4 parts to stabilize whatever you want to spin. And yeah, you can use all of these right here and here to connect it to anything you want to connect it to. Now, we're going to look at the other motors, and you get 2 of these other motors. And these are the bigger motors, and these can give more power because they're bigger and they can hold more power. And these are if you use it for a car, there would be like a tire on this side and a tire on this side, and they would go like that. And these have bigger areas. You can add anything around this, but this is the main area, this cross right there. And if you move it, you can hear the sound of the motor in both of these. Okay, so now we're looking at sensors, and there are also 3 sensors. And the first sensor we're going to look at is the sensor. So this almost looks like eyes, these 2 red pieces, but the sensor is actually right here. And what this does is This is an ultrasonic sensor and has a really far distance for its viewing point on that. Next, we're going to look at another sensor, which is actually a touch sensor, and this goes in and out, and whenever this gets in, it gets triggered. And you can put stuff on this cross too. And finally, we're going to be looking at the last one, which is this. This is another sensor, and it's also a color sensor. And this is where the sensor is. This is the color sensor, and it doesn't have too long of a distance though. So now I'm going to show you guys how to use these wires to plug in the motors and sensors. So there are shorter wires like this, and there are also longer wires, so like they can get into areas that bricks can't when you want to plug in some motors. So let's start off with these motors. And if you look at this brick, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 for 4 areas, and there's DC, BA, or ABCC. And then for programming, there's this PC wire that you have to connect to program. Or you can do it off Wi-Fi. But say we want to connect a motor, so we can plug it into one of these 4 letters. And you'll hear a click. And then you pick your motor that you want to use. And how you know how to put it in, there's like this tab that's like sticking out. And there's like an extra area for the tab. And you just put it in that way, and you can hear the click. And make sure whenever you're going in for programming, whenever you want to program this block, make sure that on that block there's the letter D on it, because it's plugged into the D. You can do the same with everything for the motors, but for the sensors, what you want to do is you can take a wire, plug it in on one side, but this time for sensors you have to use the numbers, and you can put the when any number you want. And then same like the motors, when you're programming that sensor, make sure that you have its certain number. Okay, so now we're almost done with this robot that we've been making. So the last part that we have to do is just to put this part on right here, and make sure it doesn't pop like it just did. Okay, so we have this one side in, and it's connected to the motor. Now we have to do the same thing to this side. Okay, let's push this in, and now we have an almost functioning robot. So why I said that is because we have not connected in the wires, so none of the motors are going to work when we try. So I'm just going to get one motor wire and click this one into B, and get another motor wire and click this one to this one and put it into C. And I might change this wire in because it's a little big, so I might get a smaller wire like this one and put that in, and now put it into B. And that's better. So now we have a functioning robot.
Okay, so I have a Windows 10 computer, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to program the EV3 robot that we made. And because I have a Windows 10 computer, I'm going to be using that Windows 10. I'm going to be using the software for all the Windows computers. So first what we want to do is we're just going to make it a simple movement. We're just going to make it move forward. So we want both of the wheels to move forward. So this is move steering. So we have to be in this action module first. And there's like this medium motor, and there's like the large motors, and all the stuff that we need for the bricks and the motors. And all we're going to do is use this move steering, because we don't want to move tank, because move steering moves both of them in the same speed. When move tank you can change speeds on both legs, which is mostly used for turning the robot. Or for turning the robot, you can just use one motor. But because we just want to go straight, we keep it at 0 because it's going straight. And I'm going to pull this down to only a 20. I'm only going to pull it down to a 20. And then we have to make sure what ports we're plugged them into. And we did plug them into B and C, so that's good. But we have to connect our brick. So what we do for this is you have a wire with you.
Like I said, we have a wire, which is this. And you want to plug this end of the wire into your computer. And then you want to plug this end into that area where I showed the PC. And that's on this end of this robot. Right here, it says PC. And you want to plug it in like that. And this will make the program that we make download into a project into this brick. So let's just put that right there. Move this wire out of the way, and now we can program it.
Okay, so now that wire is plugged in, we can play this program. And now you see that this brick, which is the robot, its name was just EV3. I just kept it as EV3, and it popped up here, and it's saying that we're using the USB cable. We can also use it with Wi-Fi, but I'm not going to do that. And now let's press download, because we just want to make this move forward. So I'm just going to press download, and it should download it into the brick. So now let's look at the robot moving.
Okay, so now let's go play this program. So if we look at this, we want to go, because we press download, we want to go to our projects. And I just named this file EV3. So if we go into EV3, there's a thing that pops up as program 1. So we're going to put it down, and we're going to back it up a little bit so it doesn't come off the table. And if we just press this to play program 1, it'll do what we told it to do. And it moves that distance forward. So now we're going to look at how to make this robot turn.
Okay, to make this robot turn, well, like I said in the beginning, is to use this move tank for turning. And now let's bring that in. And when it says 75 and 75, they're both positive. So that means both motors, left and right, or port B and C, those will both move in 75 power forward. And we want it to turn. So we have to make one of these turn into a negative 75. So if we make this one to the right, negative 75, it'll turn clockwise. If we change this left to a negative 75, it'll turn counterclockwise. So let's just make it turn clockwise. So let's make this negative 75. And now let's play that.
Okay, so now we're going to see if it's going to turn. And play. Okay, so if you look now, because we changed the right one to negative 75, it turned clockwise. So what if this was actually like a paper road or something that you were going on, and you accidentally turned and you want to turn back? Now I'm going to show you how to fix it and make it go back straight.
Okay, using the problem I told you guys when we were looking at if it turned left clockwise, which it did, and we want to make it go back straight. So how are we going to do that? Is we're going to take another tank out, and we're going to put it right next to it. But in this case, without making this one on the right one be negative 75, we're going to make the left one be negative 75. So both of these cancel out, and it's going back straight. But we won't know if it's going completely straight unless we make it move forward just to make sure that it's going straight. So we're going to bring out a move steering, plug that in, and we're going to make this only to a 10, just because we just want to know if it kind of can move. Now let's download that, and let's see if it works.
Okay, now let's see if that worked. Okay, as you can see, it went forward, then it turned like it should, and then it turned back, and it lined up going straight, and then it moved straight just to make sure. So this worked.